What is up, True Crime World? Here with Luminol on the Wall. I'm Becky.
And I am Bevy. And welcome to our sister chat, everyone.
Yes.
Where Becky has informed me she has something intriguing to tell me, so I can't wait to hear it.
Oh, well.
So get on with it, girl.
Okay, well, I don't know if it's intriguing. However, as you know, playing pinball every other Monday. Super fun.
Yeah.
I played really well, first of all, and that's kind of ties into the intriguing story. While I'm there, all of a sudden, one of my games, this guy walks up to me and is standing beside me playing pinball. And it kind of distracts me because I didn't know who it was. And so then my ball sunk, which was sad. Anyways, he's like, oh my God, you got 20 million? That's such a good score. And I'm like, oh my God, I've literally gotten 100 million on this game. Like, I played poorly, but he didn't need to know that. So anyways, I was like, oh, thank you. Okay, bye. Anyways, later on in the night, all of a sudden he comes up to me and he was watching my one ball on this game. And I totally blew it. Like, I had never played the game before. Super fun, but it was so fast. And I was like, oh my gosh. Turned around. I was like, oh, my heart rate's racing because it just went so fast. And he's like, whoa. He's like, you only got like 1 million on that ball? And I said, I know. It wasn't my best one. Anyways, he's like, oh my God, you're so good at pinball. And I was like, oh, thanks. You know, I'm
just pumping your tires up.
And I'm just like
Nice.
okay at pinball. I'm not anything to write home about, to be honest. There's women who are far better than I. Anyways, he shakes my hand and introduces himself. I honestly don't even remember his name. And I said, I'm Becky. And then he literally just takes like 3 steps back, looks me up and down, points and says, very sexy. And then just leaves the bar.
Oh my God. So you had never seen this guy before?
No, never. I'm pretty sure he was there playing pool. So
anyways,
my God,
so I was just some random Joe.
Yeah. Thinking I'm sexy and shit.
Calling
like,
you sexy.
You. Yeah. And you know what, Bev? That is like the best way to compliment a woman because he wasn't creepy. He was super polite and then just left. Like, didn't linger.
Yeah.
Didn't make
me
feel
I
awkward.
just had to tell you.
Yeah. And then, he leaves
Love
and I'm
that.
like, oh my God.
Just left you feeling better than before.
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh. Someone thinks I'm amazing at pinball and sexy. Amazing.
I whip my hair back and forth. I whip my hair back and forth.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I felt. I was like, yeah.
Well, that's in high contrast to what I'm about to tell you, sister, because I only got bad news and the fact that I had an instance of like bad parenting. So, bad news first.
Okay.
Got a package delivered to my home from Amazon. Someone stole it from me.
Oh.
And it was like a $400 watch. So needless to say,
insane.
I was pretty pissed. But honestly, kudos to Amazon because they completely sent me a replacement one free of charge. And so, I don't know, great customer service with that, right? Okay, so it was stressful for a short time, but ended on a good note.
Those goddamn porch pirates.
Right?
Yeah.
I was like appalled.
Yes.
I've never had this happen to me in this complex before, so I don't even know. Then, secondly, bad parenting. I left and you cannot tell Dad this.
I will not tell Dad.
Because I will never live it down, sister. Can you guess what the fuck happened to Coulson?
He ate a bunch of sugar?
No. Why wouldn't I want to tell Dad? Think harder, Rebecca.
Did you drop a brick on his head?
No, Becky. Think harder. It's like applicable to me and what Dad always talks about when he comes to my house.
The stairs?
Yeah.
Bevy.
The baby fell down the stairs.
No.
It was like 2 stairs to the basement, but yeah, he totally fell down the stairs, Rebecca.
Beverly.
It was like a and then it was in this moment, right? I'm carrying him, and then Craig's like, did you get the package? It was all related. Did you get the package? I was like, no, I didn't get the package. What are you talking about? And I put him down for a split second, and all of a sudden, fell down the stairs.
Oh my God, Bevy.
Yeah.
I will definitely not tell Dad.
I was distracted for like 2 seconds. Thanks. Because for anyone who doesn't know, it's nothing crazy. My dad isn't like a jerk or anything. He just always makes a joke about my basement door because I have like baby gates on my stairs. But like when it comes to my basement, there's a door. So I'm like, I'll just shut the door, Dad. The baby gate would be a nuisance. There's no point if I have a door. But I always keep that door open, usually. And so he's always like kind of made fun of me about it. And lo and behold, thank God it's only like 2 stairs. So he just kind of took a roll.
Yeah.
And he was fine.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that's why I was like, don't tell Dad, because like, I swear he willed it to be, okay?
Because you know what? I even remember like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, I said, are you guys going to get a baby gate for that? And you're like, no, we're just going to shut the door. And I said, yeah, that makes sense. Just make sure you shut the door. And then you let it happen.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad your baby's okay.
So, oh yeah, he's totally fine. He's basically made of rubber, so he's good. But yeah, it was a little scary. I was like, ah, but he was honestly just so fine because it's just 2 stairs. So thank God he didn't like keep rolling down the, massive flight of stairs
the
right
other,
beside
like,
it.
13 stairs.
Yeah. So anyways, I've learned my lesson.
Keep the door shut or get a baby gate.
Yeah, precisely. So
yeah.
Anyways.
Wow, Bev. Okay. Well, very eventful for both of us in very different ways.
Very different ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with all of that news, let's get into the case for today.
Let's do it, Bev.
All right. So today's case is taking us to Fayetteville, North Carolina, where 23-year-old Kelli Bordeaux, a combat medic at Fort Bragg, vanished after a night out. But before we get into the details, let's get to know Kelli a little bit. So she was born December 27th, 1988 in St. Cloud, Florida, to parents Jonna and Paul Henson. Kelli also had 2 siblings, Matt and Olivia. Growing up, Kelli was a fiery young woman, fun, outgoing, and popular. On top of that, she was absolutely gorgeous. And because of this, men were drawn to her. She was also a high school cheerleader and a beauty queen. After high school, Kelli attended Valencia College to study dental hygiene. And then, on June 12th of 2010, Kelli married her boyfriend, Mike Bordeaux. And a little after their wedding, Kelli decided that the dental industry just wasn't for her. She wanted something a little more adventurous and fulfilling. She wanted to travel and help people. So, in 2011, she decided she wanted to join the military. And although this was a pretty big surprise to her husband, he did support her. And they ended up packing up and moving to Fayetteville, North Carolina, where they rented an apartment just off of the military base. Kelli had to go through basic training, and at the end of it all, she became a combat medic in the 44th Medical Brigade. It ended up that Kelli was actually pretty satisfied with her career in the Army, but by 2012, her marriage had actually become quite strained. Unfortunately, Mike had not been able to land a job since moving to Fayetteville. He was also drinking heavily at the time, and it really put a strain on their relationship, as I think it would put a strain on anyone's relationship.
For sure it would.
Now, something else that added a little bit of complexity to their dynamic here was that at the time, Kelli had also come to the conclusion that she really didn't want to have children anymore, but Mike did. And this seemed to change their dynamic quite heavily. So in April of 2012, Kelli had had enough of this relationship and wanted to separate. So Mike moved back to Florida and Kelli stayed in North Carolina. Of course, that's where her job is. Now, what was a little bit challenging about this separation was that apparently Kelli wanted to end the relationship entirely, but Mike seemed to think that this was just a break and that they would work on their marriage and eventually reunite. Little did he know that for the last year or so, Kelli had been having an affair with a man named Justin Thompson. She had actually met him in St. Cloud, Florida before she joined the military. And although this was an affair, it actually was a lot more meaningful to Kelli. According to her sister Olivia, she really liked Justin, so much so that her plan was to divorce Mike and then have Justin move to Fayetteville, and they would see where the relationship would take them.
I feel like that would be so conflicting to be married to someone and love them, but have you like grow so far apart due to circumstances, but then to be involved in an affair where you really like ended up loving that person. It's not right.
No.
But that would be quite the conundrum to be in.
I can agree with you on that. it is a conundrum for sure. And this is probably why you don't have affairs, right? Like they just confuse relationships so extensively. And it's like you could have separated from him and then started seeing this guy and it would just be fine. Like it'd be just like on to the next stage of life. But, that's not what she did.
It happened this way. Exactly.
So one weekend in early April of that year, Justin was in town and Kelli and him decided to go get drinks at a bar called the Froggy Bottom. There they ended up meeting a man named Nicholas Holbert. He was an employee at the Froggy Bottom and they seemed to get along, so Nick gave Kelli his number so they could hang out. And Kelli was happy about this because she felt she definitely could use a local friend. So the following weekend, Kelli ends up making plans with Nick. And when Kelli told Justin about this, he wasn't very happy about it. Not because he was jealous, but because he actually thought Nick was creepy. But Kelli, being her own woman, wanted to go out, socialize, and have some fun. So on the evening of Friday, April 13th, Nick picks Kelli up, and they go to the Froggy Bottom together to get drinks. And before leaving, Justin had texted Kelli to bring her pepper spray just in case, because obviously he thinks this guy's a little bit of a weirdo,
Yeah.
Wants his girl to be protected. Now, Kelli tried to cover some more bases, and she was also in contact with her sister. Kelli texted her sister a picture of her outfit, asking, "Does this look okay?" And her sister told her she looked cute, and then Kelli was off to go to the Froggy Bottom with Nick. And while they were at the Froggy Bottom, Kelli was enjoying herself. They spent hours at the bar playing pool, singing karaoke, and just socializing. But throughout the evening, Kelli stayed in contact with Justin. And at one point in the night, Kelli was at the bar and she was speaking to the bartender who informed her that her newfound friend Nick was virtually homeless, that he had set up a camp in a wooded area near Froggy Bottoms where he lived in his truck, and that he was also a registered sex offender. Apparently, when he was 16, he had assaulted a 5-year-old so badly she was wheelchair bound, and he was found guilty of it, to boot. So learning about Nick's past made Kelli really uncomfortable, to say the least. And at that point, she realized Justin's intuition about this guy being a major creep was right. She didn't feel comfortable with Nick driving her home, so she decided to walk. Which, pause the tape, stop rolling right here, because I don't know about you, Becky, but I've had some pretty sketchy things happen to me while walking home. So this just gives me the heebie-jeebies, because it seems like she gets away from him. But does she? Like, she's kind of vulnerable walking home.
Oh, yeah. It's like later in the evening, dark out. It's not always safe.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but I have a real creepy story about one night. It was New Year's Eve, and I had gone out with my sober friend. And nearing the end of the night, like I was pretty young at this point, so I didn't drive. And also I didn't get my license till I was like 22. So like, I think I was around like 20 or something. Anyways, I was going to head home and I was hoping someone would offer to drive me home because I had this like sick feeling about going home on my own. I mean, it was late. I lived in a pretty sketchy part of Edmonton, Alberta, just off of 118th Ave. And I just had this horrible feeling that I could not shake. And lo and behold, no one offered me a ride home. So I'm taking the train and I get off the train and I'm walking home and I see the alley that leads towards my home. And I see this truck like roll around the corner and I'm like, oh my God, in my head, I'm like, please don't follow me into the alley. Like, please don't follow me into the alley. And what does this truck do? Follows me into the alley. And then some guy, like, I don't even think I looked at the person, but he was like, yo, do you need a ride home? And I was like, I'm good. Like, I'm fucking good. And he's like, no, come on, get in. I'll give you a ride. And I'm like, I just live up here. I'm good. Right? And he drives off, like speeds off, does like a circle at the end of the alley. And my house was the last house on the end of the alley. And I'm almost there, right? And he circles back around, literally tries to pin me, like block off my access to the alley. And I like scooch between a fence and the front end of his truck, literally like scooch. And luckily I was like right at my house. I like ran around to the front of my house and like I quickly got in as fast as I could. And like, I was like, oh my God, because I was thinking like he could chase after me, you know, like
Oh,
who
yeah.
knows? But as soon as I got inside, I was so scared. Like I locked all the doors, turned off every light, called my friend. Like I was just so scared, right? And anyways, I had a horrible intuition about that. Like it was like from hours before. And then something crazy like that happened. And that was probably the most sketchy thing I've ever experienced. So I think like when I hear about someone deciding to walk home late at night, you know, maybe had a few drinks, it just scares me.
For sure. You can like 100% relate to that fear of like being vulnerable
Yeah,
outside late at night. And that is so
totally.
scary. I've heard this story from you several times, and every time, like, I can feel my heart racing right now
Yeah.
because I just picture you like as a 20-year-old, like you're so young, just like you were super, like, you're not a huge person at all. Like, you're so tiny. Like,
Yeah.
it would be so easy for someone to just like overpower you.
Oh, 100%. I think at that point in my life, I was like 100 pounds soaking wet too.
Yeah. Like, you're like a little twiggy that
Yeah,
could
I
have just been
was.
taken and done with whatever.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know that moment in my life is like the scariest thing. If I ever, and like, you know how sometimes you ruminate on shit before bed? Like sometimes I don't know why I start thinking about that and I will get so scared. Like I can't even think about it late at night when I'm by myself or even try and remember it. Like I'm like, oh, it's as scary as shit.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling for Kelli at this point, Becky. I really
Yeah.
am.
And you're probably sitting there be like, don't go, don't walk. Like any
100%.
other way.
Call somebody. Like, do you have somebody that can like come pick up your sister?
Now, well,
Call your
unfortunately, her
sister.
sister lived in Florida.
Oh, right. That makes so much
So,
more
and
sense.
because she hadn't lived there that long, she only like kind of had work friends. So she didn't know a ton of people, hence why she was out with Nick, right? Because she's like, oh,
Call
a
a
friend.
cab.
Cab,
Call a
Uber.
cab.
I know.
Something, right?
Yeah.
So when Kelli left the bar, she was a little tipsy, but of course she was by no means wasted or anything. And at the end of her night at the bar, Kelli had texted Justin saying, "Hey, call me." But he didn't get that text right away. Then a little while later, she texted him at 12:46 a.m. saying that she was leaving the bar. Then around 1:24 a.m., she texted Justin saying, "Got home safe. I'm going to bed. I'm tired and drunk. Call me tomorrow." Now, Justin thought the text seemed off and was surprised it took her so long to get home because she lived so close to Froggy Bottoms. But he let it go and called her the next morning. But Kelli didn't answer. Man, I have to say this guy seems to have like a superior intuition or something. Like a
Yeah.
sixth sense.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
Justin, are you psychic?
Like what?
What?
But in all seriousness, this is a pretty scary situation. Like, the number one thing that sticks out to me is not just that the text might have seemed off, but that it was so long after she had already texted him saying she was leaving the Froggy Bottoms.
Although, have you ever done that at a party before where you're like, yeah, I'm leaving, and then all of a sudden you're there like an hour longer because you just like, I don't know, got into a really good conversation, then you're like, oh yeah, I was leaving. Okay, bye. And it's like an hour later.
Yeah, totally. Like, I have had
Especially
that.
with drinking, like I am a victim of that all the
But
time.
she does know that Justin is worried about her. So
You think
I
she'd
feel like she would
answer.
have, like, right before she left, she would have just been like, "Yeah, I'm on my way. Bye." Like, you know,
Like a
she
little more
obviously
heads
wants to
up.
get in contact with him. Yeah.
Yes.
So while I do see your point, I'm going to go back to your previous point of like, she didn't know many people there. She didn't have a lot of friends. So, like, I don't know. I do that. I have been guilty of what you just explained when I'm at like a house get together party thing with my close friends.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm trying to make my rounds to say goodbye and it's like, oh, 30 minutes later.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
never like at a bar where I'm just like all of a sudden talking to someone random. No.
That's true.
So obviously, this is enough to make Justin worry, and he calls the police to try and report her as missing. But he was kind of sloughed off. So he then called Sunday because he still hadn't heard from her, and again, no action. And he had a really weird feeling about this and decided to call Kelli's family to let them know. It was this phone call that made everyone realize that no one could get a hold of her. And this was just not normal for Kelli. So Monday, April 16th rolls around and Kelli doesn't report for duty at Fort Bragg. There was also no sign of her at her apartment. And by this point, everyone is worried about her well-being. Justin is finally able to report Kelli as missing to the police that Monday, and a search for her began immediately. This was a giant search. They pulled out all the stops. There were helicopters, people on horseback, four-wheelers, boats, and around 500 volunteers showed up for foot searches. In addition to this, investigators also immediately started looking at Kelli's inner circle. And that's when detectives learned of this love triangle between Kelli's husband, Mike, and her boyfriend, Justin, which, I mean, obviously stands out to police because we know love triangles can get real messy and can ultimately end in homicide. So they're going to look into this and make sure nothing is afoot.
Exactly.
So initially, there was a lot of speculation around Mike because he's the husband and his wife had recently broken up with him. You know, she had been involved in an affair for the last year. So could he have found out and decided to kill Kelli out of revenge or jealousy? I mean, maybe. But Mike, along with Justin, were both in St. Cloud, Florida, with alibis at the time that Kelli went missing. So that kind of ruled them out right away. And although the public speculated that Mike still could have driven to Fayetteville because the last known sightings of Kelli at the bar were between 12:30 and 2 a.m., and based on Mike's alibi, he could have narrowly made it to Fayetteville if Kelli had still been at the bar closer to 2.
Now, keep in mind, as we know, the text messages were earlier than 2 a.m., right, Bev? But the reason why that this time frame is debated is because, you know, there's drunk people at a bar having fun, socializing, you know, and you're not always paying attention to the clock, right? So some people were like, oh, I think around the last time I saw her was like around 2. So it was like that uncertainty of that last known sighting of her.
Right. Makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure they end up getting her phone records.
Yes, they did.
And we know that she left the bar at 12:46 a.m. And there was a text to Justin at 1:30 saying she arrived home. So, I mean, obviously, this detail probably rules out Mike. And probably kind of rules out the possibility that he could have like driven there, you know, to harm her.
Exactly.
So in addition to them kind of ruling these two guys out, while they were talking to them, the investigators then became aware of Nick. And after learning he was the last known person to be with her, he quickly jumped to the top of the suspect list. So they haul him in for questioning. And when they spoke with him, he confirmed with officers that he and Kelli had gone out to the Froggy Bottom that night. And he said that around 1 or 1:30 a.m., Kelli had told him that she was tired and wanted to go home, so they left. He says that as soon as he pulled into the Meadowbrook apartment complex, Kelli said, "You can stop right here and let me out, I'll walk." And then he told investigators that Kelli then got out of his truck and that was the last time that he saw her. Nick also told investigators, "I hate that she's missing and I hope that she is found." So the question now is whether Nick is lying, and if he is in fact telling the truth, then did Kelli come in contact with a stranger? So I'm sure this is kind of the path that the investigators have to take and the questions that they have to ask, but between you and I, Beck, and based on what we already know about this case, is it weird that he's placing her in his truck at all? Like, it is, right?
Well, considering he drove her there, I would say no.
But considering she found out he's a freaking, like, rapist, I would say yes.
Right?
Like,
I know.
I'm sorry.
I know, because, like, why would she change her mind from walking to taking a ride from him when she was so fired up about it, right? And creeped out.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Are you kidding me? I would
No.
never get in a vehicle with someone who did that after figuring it out. I'd be sickened to myself, like, so disgusted. Like, that person's not someone who's safe. I don't care. I would not get back in the vehicle with them. And she even said she wanted to walk.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, the fact that he is now, as he's talking to investigators, placing Kelli in his truck at all on there and saying that they left together is concerning to me and raises more suspicion on Nick.
I 100% agree with you, Bevy. In fact.
Thank you. So the local police, and because of Kelli's, career, Army investigators also searched her apartment and car. Her car was parked at her house and showed no signs of a struggle. But Kelli's ID, cell phone, and personal effects were in fact missing. And this is where the detectives then obtained Kelli's phone records, confirming her last cell tower ping was near Froggy Bottoms, not her apartment. Again, super sketchy. So after the initial search, Kelli's husband Mike thanked the volunteers at a vigil of hope near Froggy Bottoms, saying, "I appreciate everything everyone is trying to do to find her. I just want her home and I want her safe, and that's all I want."
I feel so bad for him. Obviously, I'm worried for Kelli, and I guess I'm sad for Justin, but her husband I feel so sad for because all the interviews I watched and everything I read was he literally thought they were getting back together and was just hadn't spoken to her in a while, right? Just they needed space. And so he went from just thinking they're taking a break, working on their marriage, going to get back together eventually, to find out she's now missing and she's had a boyfriend for over a year. So many heartbreaking things for this man. And then conflicting emotions. Well, probably not conflicting, but he's probably so hurt, but obviously he has a main focus, and that is finding Kelli. So that must be just hard to learn all that and go through this process in a very short time.
Oh yeah, I honestly feel like you'd probably just have to put your feelings of the affair and whatnot on the back burner.
100%.
Process that at a way later date, and obviously her being missing takes precedent, right? And those emotions about that. But damn, you're right. What a slap in the face to learn all of this at once. That would be, for any person, hard to manage.
For sure. And you know what I respect so greatly, though, is that Mike and Justin, not that they worked directly together, but they didn't act out together. They didn't fight. They literally just had the same common goal because they both loved Kelli and they just wanted to find her. And I respect the hell out of that because that could be a really hard thing to have to deal with, knowing they're both there searching for her and they're both there with the same goal. That would be hard.
Oh yeah, I think an immature person would probably, I don't know, maybe lash out, start a brawl.
Yeah.
But not these two. Not these two.
They stayed focused on the goal.
Now, throughout the search, Kelli's family also spoke to news outlets explaining that this was very out of character for Kelli, and they just pleaded for her to be returned home. And you could hear the urgency and fear in their voices. Kelli's family were not the only ones doing interviews. Nick did as well. He sat there begging for information on Kelli's whereabouts. And while Nick was on the news, a private investigator named David Marshburn had been watching his interview, and being a self-proclaimed lie detector, he felt Nick was lying and felt compelled to help this investigation. So he starts looking into who Nick was, and he learned exactly what the bartender had told Kelli. David also learned that Nick seemed obsessed with females of any age in a real perverted way. And of course, that information was very concerning. And David and police really felt that Nick had something to do with this, but at the time there was really no hard evidence connecting him to her disappearance. And unfortunately, what the police believed was that Kelli was probably dead. But because of the lack of evidence, they couldn't charge Nick with anything. Now, before I move on and tell you a little bit more about Nick and his devious ways, can we just talk about the fact that he was all up on the news? Pleading for Kelli's safe return or whatever. Ew. Only because I truly do feel at this point that he is 100% responsible for her disappearance. It's just hard not to think that. So if he is in fact responsible, him going on the news and doing that is pretty disgusting. Like, he knew her for one day. And I just think it's
not a good look.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just kind of ick, you know? Like, you could let her family plead for her safe return. You knew her for one night. Like,
well, he knew
leave
her
it
for
be.
like kind of a week. It
Who
doesn't
cares?
change anything. I'm just being technical here. But I get what you're
Whatever.
saying. It's like, leave it to the people who really know her and care about her instead of some man she just randomly met.
And was the last person to see her alive, which we all know is kind of always makes you kind of like sus. So
yeah. So way to put yourself out there, guy, looking like a suspect.
Yeah. So let's go back to Nick, because there's more, Rebecca, as you know. So police dig into Nick's history even more and learned that when he moved to Fayetteville, he was in fact supposed to report and put his name on the sex offenders list, but he didn't. And that this was in fact a parole violation. So in 2013, they end up arresting him and putting him in jail for a year while they continued their investigation. Unfortunately, the case kind of came to a standstill. David Marshburn and the Fayetteville police worked separately and together to try and solve Kelli's disappearance. David spent months searching the wooded areas near Froggy Bottoms, digging, searching lakes and ponds for Kelli. He even acquired a German Shepherd named Kaz to search for Kelli's body. He poured through records, rewatched interviews, and built a timeline, and still found no concrete evidence. So as kind of a last-ditch effort, David decided to befriend Nick once he was released from prison. He approached him and told Nick he was a private eye and that he didn't believe Nick did it. He also told him he thought he could help him clear his name so they could find out who did it. And David knew that if he could build some trust with Nick, he eventually could get the truth from him. Ooh. So, knowing Nick was down on his luck financially, David would hire him for odd jobs, buy him food or pay for cigarettes, any pretext to spend time with him. Now, David is committed, right? Mm-hmm. He does this for months, at least a couple. And he was still no further along than when he started. So he does get a little bit frustrated. So he kind of changes things up and decides to use a different tactic. He himself wrote up a fake plea deal and gave it to Nick. It said if he confessed to murder and apologized for it, in return he would get help with his mental health and he would get set up in an apartment where he could get a computer and stuff.
So like you confess and you get a really virtually a slap on the wrist for this murder.
I mean, Nick has to be a little daft if he believes that, which, by the way, spoiler, he does. Because, you don't get away with murder. You don't just get, a slap on the wrist. In fact, we'll give you a computer. We'll give you a little setup. Oh, you murdered someone? No big deal. Thanks for telling us. Here's, an apartment.
Yeah, do you want a condo or a townhome?
Yeah. Should we include a coffee maker with that?
A brand new laptop? Sure, why not?
So I don't know why, but Nick really believed David. Maybe it was all that trust building, so it was not for nothing, at the very least. However, it all kind of comes crashing down, and his plan kind of fails because Nick reads the agreement a few times. He closes it and gave it back to David, and he said he wouldn't sign it, saying he believed that the prosecution would take back their end of the deal. So he still believes that this is a real plea deal, but he just doesn't have faith in it.
Because it sounds too good to be true.
Well, yeah, it is. Right? So, he hasn't lost all his marbles, Becky.
No, not all of them.
Now, the outcome of all of this kind of sounds disappointing, but David was actually really pleased because after Nick said what he said, he knew that Nick was in fact the right suspect after all. So, David and his bag of tricks, he comes up with another plan. He writes up a fake indictment and set up a bondsman in a Crown Vic outside Nick's residence to make it seem like the police had Nick under surveillance, which played into his growing paranoia that he was being watched. And at this point, Nick starts panicking, thinking that it was only a matter of time before he was going to be arrested. So he ends up calling David and told him he wanted to sign the previous plea deal. He also agreed to take David to where Kelli's body was. So on May 13th, 2014, Nick takes David to show him Kelli's body. So Nick directed David to Froggy Bottoms. Nick then got out of his vehicle and walked just behind where his old makeshift home was in the woods. Nick stood there, and David put his hand on his shoulder and asked, "Did you do something to Kelli?" Nick looked down and simply said, "Yes, I killed her."
There it is.
Right? There's the confession. Wow, David really played him.
Yeah. I almost feel bad about it, but not really.
You feel bad because you're like, how could someone fall for something like that? But he deserves it 100%.
Yeah.
So after this confession, David contacted the police. Authorities arrived and cordoned off the scene. Forensic teams recovered partial human remains and other evidence. Now, before I get into what Nick goes on to tell the detectives about the night in question, I need to bring up the fact that, was this not a place that was searched? The guy at the bar told Kelli where his makeshift home was, right? Surely talking to people that knew about Nick and of Nick, they must have thought this was potentially a place of interest? I don't know. I know they did an extensive search, so maybe were the remains super hidden or...
They were buried.
Right.
So, I thought the same thing at first, to be honest, Bev. I was like, really? Was that that close? But imagine in the woods, you dig a grave, throw leaves, sticks, whatever, cover it up. No one may ever know that there was anything buried there, So it could have easily got even probably walked on and just overlooked, unfortunately.
Wow.
But it is sad that she has been there for 2 years at this point.
So close.
Yeah.
To where she went missing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's get into what Nick tells detectives. So while at the crime scene, he tells them that he had gone and picked her up and they went to Froggy Bottoms. They played pool, drank, and sang karaoke, which, as we know, checks all the boxes. We know that. And he says everything was going good and that Kelli eventually wanted to leave and go home. And while she paid her tab, Nick went outside and was apparently waiting for her. He said after she came outside, she ended up walking down the sidewalk and walked past his car. He got out and said, "Hey, I thought I was going to drive you home." And she yelled at him, "Fuck you, child molester," or something along those lines. So he ran up behind her and hit her and knocked her out. After that, he picked her up and put her in his car. He then took her back to the woods where he was staying. He pulled her out of the car. He took her clothes off and assaulted her. He said she started screaming when he was on top of her. And he said at that point he got scared that someone would hear her. So he grabbed a rock and started beating her in the head until she was dead. He then wrapped her head in a garbage bag and buried her nearby. After that, he took Kelli's cell phone and went back to the bar and sent Justin the text saying she got home safe and was going to bed and to call her tomorrow. He then disposed of her cell phone as he crossed over the river.
And this explains why her last phone ping was near Froggy Bottoms.
Totally.
And not her home, right there.
Wow. It honestly, that story, very believable because it, if you found out someone was a child molester to the extent he was, and you were hanging out with him, and he was like, "I thought I was going to drive you home." Yeah, you'd be like, "Fuck you, you little pedophile, nasty."
Yeah.
Get lost, loser.
Exactly.
That makes total sense. She obviously was disgusted with what she heard. And I don't know. That's just terrible what he did to her. The fact that she was still alive. Ugh. When all of that was happening.
Right? And came to.
It's just devastating.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I know. It's such a savage way to be killed too. Just hit with a rock on the head.
You're right,
Also,
it is pretty savage.
yeah, like kind of like animalistic, right?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
You're using natural resources to murder someone, just like, well, bam,
Yeah, which I'm not sure. Like, okay, so as I'm learning about this case and I hear this story that's confessed to the investigator, I'm like, if she hadn't said anything, was she going to get home safe?
See, that is the thing. And this is, I have to like interject because I want to actually respond to that, my thoughts on it. Okay. So I was thinking the exact same thing as that right there. But I think it's what he planned to do the whole time. Like, I just think it is who he was. Like, why assault her then? Like, it's just so, are you just that opportunistic? Like, at a whim, you're like, oh, I got mad at her. She's unconscious. Now I'm going to take her and assault her. No, like, that's just weird. Like, I think it was his plan the whole time, Becky.
I can see why you'd say that, and I would be inclined to probably agree, but I hate that. I guess I hate that she called him on this shit and then he attacked her. But not knowing if he would have done it anyways is also hard. Because, like, was this her fate at the end of the day anyways?
I think so. He was a piece of shit. They said he had like an interest in all age groups. You know what I mean? He befriended her, took her out. She was tipsy. Like, I have no doubt that he was not going to take her home or was going to take her somewhere and at the very least assault her.
Mm.
And like, I definitely think at least that was going to occur. And then obviously he's already a molester. Like, if he's going to attack her in that way and assault her, he's going to have to kill her. Because if she says anything, like, he's going back to prison for a long time anyways, right? Because that would be his second sexual offense.
Yeah.
So I think he was threatened when she said that. And I think it happened sooner rather than later. But I personally think, like, that's who he was. He was seeking her out, not as a friend. Like, give me a break. These people are like looking for their victims. They stalk people. They do this. So like, him even giving her his phone number and asking her out, like, I truly think this was his intention the whole time.
Oh, man.
Not that that gives any like consolation to those that loved her, but that was going to be her fate anyways, no matter what she said or did. Like, I don't think that would give anyone peace.
For sure.
Is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, he's a piece of shit for doing that.
Yeah.
So what kind of gives his story credibility is that when Kelli's body was unearthed, she did still have the garbage bag over her head. So that's a detail that only the killer would have known.
Right. And because you know how some criminals, they will only tell like half truths when they're confessing?
Mm-hmm.
I think this will make it an easier case because it's like, oh, that matches. You wrapped a garbage bag around her head and then buried her where you said you did and were able to show us. Like, it kind of takes the ease off to think that he's not hiding something else or withholding other information. You kind of get the vibe that he is telling the truth, finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Because he thinks he's getting a computer in an apartment.
Sadly.
Anyways, within days of recovering Kelli's body, the Fayetteville police announced the arrest of Nick Holbert. He was charged with first-degree murder. Now, interestingly enough, Nick does end up accepting and agreeing to a plea deal in August of 2015. However, as we know, it's not going to be the fake one that David wrote up.
Exactly.
So he pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, accepting life in prison without parole instead of facing the death penalty. In court, he apologized to Kelli's family for all the pain and horror that he caused them, but his words rang hollow. Kelli's mother, Jonna, could not hold back her rage. She demanded Holbert look at her and shouted, "You took something so precious from me. You took my baby girl for no reason. I cannot forgive you." Kelli's brother, Matt, had to be removed from the courtroom for interrupting Nick's attorney and verbally lashing out. In a news interview, Matt said it was probably a good thing the judge removed him because he thought he may physically hurt Nick, or at least try to. After his sentencing, Army officials expressed their sorrow and stated, "We are deeply saddened that the discovery now concludes our final hopes of her returning safely." Kelli's family and Fayetteville police are forever grateful for David Marshburn's help. He was able to use tactics the police were not allowed to use, such as a fake plea deal and indictments. However, without that, Nick may never have confessed, and Kelli may never have been found. David obviously felt a calling towards this case and put an enormous amount of time, money, and energy into it. And Kelli's family really couldn't be more grateful to him. So grateful, in fact, that Jonna gave David Kelli's military dog tags as a thank you, a token he vowed never to part with. And just as like a last sentiment for this case, we just want to remember Kelli Marie Bordeaux as a devoted soldier and beloved daughter taken too soon. Now, obviously, the plea bargain gave a verdict, but for those who loved Kelli, only her memory lives on, and that must be a challenge to say the least. A challenge to like live every day knowing you won't see your loved ones. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like screw Nick. That's messed up. It's just so sad though, because she just wanted to like go out, meet new people, and she met like a shit person.
Yeah, like wrong place, wrong time, basically.
Now I have another story because, I mean, it could happen to anyone, like this exact thing. You just like meet like a terrible human being. But like I used to work at Pizza Hut as a server, and this guy like left his number for me, and I ended up like calling him, right, and going out because I thought he was cute or whatever. And he picks me up for a date, and I decide to go, like so young, so dumb. And I'm in the car, and he starts driving out of the city. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I was panicking. I couldn't even concentrate. I was literally like so scared. Anyways, the idiot just took me on a date to go look at like new house builds, mansions, like just outside of the city. I was like, and he took me right home after, like, Becky. I was shitting myself on the way out there. I was like, where are we going? Like, why are we going so far? What the fuck?
No kidding. You're like, do I have my cell phone on me? Is there anything in here that I could use as a weapon? How sharp are my nails? Yeah. What am I going to do just in case?
Yeah, I was scared shitless. So, obviously,
it worked out fine.
Bad happened. Yeah. But I was saying, like, in that moment, like, of him driving outside the city, I was so scared. I was like filled with so much regret, and I was like, man, like it could just be that easy, you know?
It could be that easy.
And sometimes it is. So
well, I thank God every day that you are safe.
Thanks, Beck.
And I'm so sorry that Kelli was not safe. She was not safe, but the situation ended up not being safe is what I mean. And yeah. I'm just so sad for her family that they have to deal with this and that they never got to tell her, I love you one last time, or give her one more hug, because that would be the saddest thing.
Yeah, truthfully. Well, Becky, that is it for this case. So thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing.
And I love you hugely. And everyone, hug your loved ones a little tighter today.
Yeah, one last hug before they leave your house.
All right. Well, until next week, sister. And just your weekly reminder to download our weekly episodes. Follow us on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever streaming platform you listen to us on, and give us a follow on our social medias. You can find us at Luminol on the Wall. Can't wait till next week.